Welcome to Outcast. I'm your host, Amita Mehta, CEO of Amita Mehta Possible, and the aim of this show is to really showcase misfits, my fellow misfits, as I'm a self-proclaimed misfit myself, and people who have faced adversity and who are shaping and leaning into their misfit qualities to make a difference in this world. And I have to say, I am extremely thrilled to have Regina Huber, CEO and founder of Transform Your Performance, on my show today, and particularly excited given that we have you patched in, Regina, from Kampala, Uganda, where I was born. And again, where I'm a refugee from. So over 40 years ago, made my way to America from Kampala, Uganda, and I think to be wrapping up this decade, to be able to have you here talking to us from Kampala is incredible. So very near and dear to my heart, and just extremely thrilled that you're joining me on the show today. So welcome. And really just wanted to kick things off and talk about your journey as a misfit. So again, as I mentioned, CEO and founder of Transform Your Performance, but so talk to us, tell viewers about who you are and what makes you a misfit.
Yes, sure. I'm super delighted to be on the show today with you. And as you said, from your birthplace, so that's, I think, that is just amazing, right? To make it work that way. And people here have done wonders and miracles to actually make this connection work. So I'm very grateful. What makes me a misfit? Well, I think I grew up in a little village on a farm in Germany and in Bavaria. And I always felt like a little girl that my thinking was a bit different to the rest of the community, but I couldn't quite, of course, pinpoint it, because as a girl, we don't really know what's normal, what's not normal, and what is supposed to be normal, and are we even supposed to be normal, which I think we are not. But, at the time, it led to quite a lot of confusion. I grew up in a Catholic household, and I didn't really make any sense of how this religion was practiced and preached. There were a lot of incongruencies for me, but I also didn't have a spiritual alternative at the time. That came much later in life. So I was just really confused. Also at school, growing up on a farm, at school, farmers were sometimes looked down at. So what happened is, I think, something that we would call nowadays bullying. We didn't call it that at the time. But there were certainly disdainful comments about farmers, and the word farmer even was sometimes used as almost a synonym for stupid. That was quite painful, and although it didn't happen every day, when it did happen, I was quite hurt. Also, being an over-empathic person, very sensitive person, I have always been very sensitive, and I had to somehow make sense of all of this, which was not easy, frankly.
Well, and it's interesting because as my family settled in America, the first families we settled with were the Amish, who were farmers. So again, I can certainly relate to you in terms of how you might feel like an outcast or a misfit growing up in that way. And so how did you find yourself persevering through some of these microaggressions that you had faced growing up? Because obviously you and I have had an opportunity to talk about, you're a world traveler. You are, I would say, a student of the world, and you're also a dancer. So can you talk to us a little bit how you came to become self-actualized and transformed yourself to where you are today?
Right, so as a little girl, I was also extremely shy. I didn't mention that before, but that did not help. Yes. And so I had to overcome this. At the same time, though, I had a tremendously adventurous spirit inside of me. A lot of curiosity for how other people think, live, eat, dance. I didn't grow up with dance. That came later, but I later developed a strong passion for dance, which I still have now. And wherever I travel, wherever I go, I try to catch a piece of the dance, of the culture, of the music. And later on, I started moving. At 19, I moved to Munich, and again, I was a country girl in a big city. So again, a little bit of an out of place, to call it something, especially at the hip bars and clubs where I felt like I didn't fit in because I didn't really grow into it. I was just, put into it like into cold water. And that didn't deter me, though, from moving out into the world, because I really wanted to go abroad. So when the opportunity showed up for me at 26, I moved to Spain. And again, I'd never been to Spain. So it was quite a culture shock at the beginning. At the time we didn't have social media. We didn't have the opportunity to call back home every single day. That was just not an option. I made the best out of it, I think. At the beginning, it was sometimes a bit tough to be there all by myself, but then I started moving around the world, and then I started really enjoying this and growing into new environments, overcoming the shyness, building confidence. It was quite an experience, over the years. Later on, I moved to Brazil. I also had the chance to travel a lot to Lisbon while I lived in Spain, because I worked at the Boston Consulting Group at the time, and helped them open offices both in Portugal and in Brazil. So afterwards, I spent some time in Brazil, Sao Paulo. I moved back to Germany for a couple of years, but I always had a foot outside, and I knew that I was going to leave again. Despite doing a lot of traveling and international work during those 2 years, and I eventually found myself going to Argentina, where I'd spent some time before, and then to the west coast of the United States, California, San Francisco. From there, back to Argentina and to Brazil. So I've been making my rounds quite a bit. In the last few years, I've spent 7 months, actually, of the last 2.5 years now on the African continent.
So you make it sound so easy, because I know when I was 20 years old, I was able to, through my college study abroad, and that's what got my itch going. My parents had always been worldly and had encouraged knowing that there is something bigger beyond where we were, and that there is a whole world out there. But at 19, how did you get aligned or like equipped to even know that you could launch out into the world? Because a lot of people, especially females, and shy females wouldn't necessarily say, I'm going to go out to the world. So what prompted you? Were you running to something or running from something?
At 19, I certainly moved to Munich also because I wanted to study. And there was, of course, no such thing as a university or a college anywhere near the village. So that was about 100 miles, a little less than that, away from my hometown. It's not really a town, it's really a village. We had 9 houses in the village, so I can imagine.
Yeah.
But I did visit it. I did, of course, go to school in a nearby town. And the truth is, though, at 16, I hitchhiked all the way to Amsterdam because I really wanted to travel. And as you can imagine, farmers cannot always travel. They have to be at the farm. And we didn't get to travel a lot as kids. My parents did take us to the mountains as often as possible. My dad loved to go to the mountains, and he actually also would have loved to travel more. But, it wasn't always possible. So at 16, together with another friend of mine, who at the time was 18 and pregnant, we hitchhiked all the way to Amsterdam, and we had 5 days. We spent 3 of those 5 days on the road, as you can imagine, on trucks, in cars, but eventually we made our way to Amsterdam and back, and safely so. Well, and that was one of the more adventurous trips at the time.
Well, and let's talk about this. So it's like been an evolution. So for our viewers, I mean, you make it sound so easy in terms of I moved to Spain, and then I was in Brazil, and now I'm expanded off to Africa. What advice do you have for people? Because obviously people are probably thinking, Okay, so Regina, you must have an endless flow of cash flow to be able to do this. So what advice do you have for people in terms of even just taking that chance? Or because again, sometimes people will have those excuses to say, "Well, I have a family to raise," or "I have bills to pay." How are you doing it? And what advice do you have for people? Because you make it sound so easy to be out there in the world.
No, so talking about the cash flow first. First of all, I traveled when I was very young. I traveled on a budget very often. I hitchhiked. We would go with friends to Italy as soon as we had our driver's license, and we would sleep in the woods without tents even sometimes. I did backpacking through Central America with my sister. And, we were quite adventurous, but I think it's really this curiosity that pushed me out there. And just this hunger to see a piece of the world. I've always had this hunger inside of me. And talking about my recent travels to Africa, well, when I left Brazil, in Brazil I had a really big apartment. I had a lot of things. Before that, I had owned a bed and breakfast in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So I had a lot of stuff, a lot of furniture, a lot of things. And when I moved to New York, I got rid of most of these things. Right now, what I have is clothes, shoes, my work materials, my equipment, and that's it. And ever since I moved to New York, I have lived in furnished apartments, which is a concession that I have made to be able to then also say, okay, I'm going to Ghana, I'm going to South Africa for a month, I'm going to Cameroon, I'm going to whatever place I want to go to. And right now, Uganda, and next week, Rwanda, and then Kenya. This is my concession that I'm making, because I've also gone through ups and downs as many entrepreneurs. I had a very painful experience in Brazil. I took a lot of risks, and not all the risks were always calculated. I've learned a lot along the way. I've learned my painful lessons, my joyful lessons, all these life lessons that we all have sometimes through challenges or experience through challenges. And just 7 years ago, I went through a very painful lesson in many, many ways. Financially painful, emotionally painful. I actually lost all my self-esteem and confidence, and I had to build it back from scratch. Moved to a different country, new location, and started over. So you can imagine the cash flow hasn't always been the same during those years. It's ups and downs. Yeah. And I have tried to make it work.
Well, I think this
build my business, a new business.
Well, and I think this is a great segue. We're going to take a commercial break, and I think this is going to be a great pivot point for us to talk about the work that you're doing. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to continue our conversation and talk about what you're doing in the world with Transform Your Performance. So we'll be right back.
When others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind-the-scenes footage, previews, and more.
I work 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. So when I'm off the clock, I gotta get stuff done. So when I need a snack, I need something healthy, tasty, and easy to eat. Like wonderful pistachios without the shells. They're protein-powered, delicious, and great on the go. And that's perfect for me.
Thanks, Liz.
A woman without a lot of time.
Whether you're a gourmet cook or just want to eat like one, visit Rostelli Market Fresh, your home for the freshest, locally sourced ingredients to please everyone who loves great food. Our organic meats, quality seafood, and free-range poultry are cut fresh to order. Chefs create culinary-inspired prep foods made fresh every day, which pair nicely with our vast selection of fine wines and spirits. Choose from handmade pastas, artisan cheeses, organic produce, and grocery items, all from the finest purveyors. Rostelli Market Fresh, from our family to yours.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly.
Welcome back. We are now continuing our conversation with Regina Huber, CEO and founder of Transform Your Performance. And so now we're going to pivot the conversation to how you've landed in terms of how you became founder of Transform Your Performance. How did you land on that? Has that been something that's always been a passion of yours? And how did you make this pivot in terms of your world travels, leveraging your world travels to deliver your passion?
Yes. One big reason is for sure the experience that I mentioned earlier before the break. That really catapulted me into a new chapter of my life. I think everything we do in life is always a preparation for our next chapter. So this was my big next chapter, but at the beginning, of course, I didn't know what it was going to be exactly yet. So when I moved to New York and when I decided to leave Brazil and say, okay, I'm going to start a new beginning, and I was thinking, okay, how could I take everything that I have learned so far in my life, everything that I've experienced, all my lessons and my skills and talents, how could I put all of that into a new business to make a difference? And I took all this eclectic background and I threw in also my passion for dance, my passion for diversity, my passion for leadership, put it all together into this new business. It was, of course, a process. It doesn't go from one day to the next. I started networking. I started finding out more about what people needed. I started out finding more about what my real passion even was. There's a big clarity finding process involved as well. And I took all of this. I took my weirdness, I what you call the misfit, I sometimes call my weirdness. I took that weirdness and said, okay, what am I going to do with this weirdness? And today I call this weirdness my distinctive uniqueness. And I've made it an integral part of a process or system that I have developed, which I call the powerful leadership transformation. Another piece of it is a self-empowering mindset and also a body and energy conscious business presence, where the dance comes in, where my holistic healing studies come in. And the fourth element of it is effective action, which is more like a consequence of the above. Later on, I noticed that I really also needed to include specifically work in the diversity and inclusion arena, because that's where my big passion lies, inclusive leadership. And I started working a lot with women, although I don't only work with women. I love to help people gain visibility in their careers, with their businesses, whether they are part of a minority, whether they are a woman, or whether they are just somebody who wants to gain greater visibility for some reason because they don't have it yet. I've also started working a little bit more with youth. Like, for example, today here in Uganda, I had a great meeting with students who had just concluded their sessions at the Institute of Advanced Leadership. And they invited me to be a part of their concluding session and to contribute some wisdom and inspiration. It was really a great experience as well.
So Regina, we talked a little bit about what is it like to be a white woman really pushing the agenda around diversity and inclusion, because again, we are living in polarizing times, and so we did touch on that a bit in terms of what is it like being a white woman in this space, and trying to pursue your passion. What have the challenges been, and what have been some of the rewarding aspects of what you're doing? Because obviously you're well renowned in terms of, especially from an international landscape, various travel to different countries. So what is it about being being who you are in this space? Because again, it's rare, right, to see somebody in your shoes feeling very comfortable in your skin pushing this work.
Well, yes, it can be challenging at times because, people sometimes look for certain profiles, and we all tend to put people into boxes, into categories. A person who does this has to look like this. A person who does this has to look like this. We all do it in a way, whether we do it consciously or subconsciously. So I'm really pushing hard to pull people out of their boxes, and I do this through a process that I call humanizing the workplace. And my specific challenge has, of course, been more being the white woman.
Yeah.
Although I do think that I bring a very unique background to the table, which is this multicultural and multilingual background. I speak 5 languages. I've learned a lot through not only studying those languages, which is actually in itself very rich and tells us a lot about cultures, but also by moving through different countries, to different continents even, also teaching on different continents, being in constant contact with people from all over the world. Last year, for example, I taught a leadership workshop for women leaders in Qatar, completely different environment to my usual. It went really well. I've learned to adapt to different environments, also different cultural environments. It's not maybe always perfect, but I'm doing my best, and I usually don't find it too hard to connect with people.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that certainly distinguishes me.
Yes.
Also, certainly my passion, but passion is something that other people bring to the table as well, of course.
Yes.
And again, my curiosity. You have to be curious for this.
And so what are you seeing out there in the world? Because sometimes we can get myopic in thinking about, okay, we're here in the U.S. and in American society and what's happening here, but what are you seeing out there in the international landscape? What are some of the key challenges that you're seeing? I'm sure there are some parallels of what we're seeing here domestically in the U.S., but what would you say are some of the key challenges that you find that you're looking to solve for in a lot of the work that you're doing?
Yes, so I think for women the challenges are quite similar, along the same lines. They are more expressed or less expressed. Okay, so there's levels. For some other countries, what is really big is what we call disability. So that topic, I call it different abilities or diverse abilities. I also think we really have to change our mindset around these terms and change the terms themselves in order to change people's minds. Because I certainly have some disabilities too. We all do. We just have different abilities. And people who have obvious, what we call disabilities, have other abilities that we do not have. So I think we have to really change people's mindsets around this. And I see this as a big challenge in some other countries, and therefore also a bigger focus for people working in this arena. Of course, in some countries it's language, in other countries it's more religion, in other countries it's more race.
Or sexual orientation, right? And we talked about sexual orientation,
yes,
right? Because,
yes.
Again, me being out lesbian, right? That, so.
Yeah, very hot topic in many of the countries I travel to, and very taboo topic as well. So they don't really talk a lot about it. Then, of course, also different perspectives. That's another very important topic that is now getting more attention as well. Yes, even just, talking about religion, as I did earlier, is not always easy in some environments. And I was quite surprised, actually, when I moved outside of Germany for the first time, because in Germany it's not such a big issue. It used to be more for me when I was little, because I grew up in the countryside in a more traditional environment, but it's changed a lot, and it's not a big topic as it is, for example, in the US, because it's not as limiting in a way. So yes, it's quite different in different geographic areas, and I think the way race is treated, for example, in the US, as you said before, is quite polarizing, and also more so than in some other countries. At least to me. I personally move a lot in very diverse environments, not only professionally, but also personally, because that's where my interest is. I love to dance, so sometimes I'm the only white person in the room. When I go with my Haitian friend, for example, to Long Island dancing, I'm oftentimes the only white person in the room. It doesn't feel weird because I'm with my friend, but it could feel weird. Yes?
But you feel comfortable. That's your space, though. We talked about that earlier in terms of you sometimes feel more comfortable in that space than out in the world.
Exactly.
And so as as we're wrapping up, Regina, so talk to me about, so if people are interested in learning more about you and the work that you offer to organizations and individuals. You obviously do coaching, which we didn't even get to chat about that, but as our viewers are learning more about you, how do they find you, and what are some of the sort of core focus areas that you could help organizations and individuals? Because I want to make sure that viewers know what you can offer to them and how they can find you.
Yes, of course. I do, in terms of coaching, I do transformational leadership coaching. We can be a leader in any capacity. It's not only for leaders in a leadership position. It's also transformational coaching because we work with situations. It is situational in that sense, but it is also transformational, meaning you can take it to any future experiences to your entire life. And I do this in individual settings and confidential settings online, of course, and also in person at times at companies. Group coaching, I'm also certified. Well, I shouldn't say certified. There are certain degrees there, but I am a conversational intelligence practitioner, advanced practitioner, and as such, can do group coaching for companies as well, for organizations. This conversational intelligence methodology is its main intention is to build environments based on trust, where team leaders can also then navigate more successfully through their team conversations, where they can build trust to build more effective and more productive and more creative and innovative teams. It's about culture building. And then, of course, there's also my Humanizing the Workplace topic, where we talk specifically about inclusive leadership. It integrates some of the trust-building tools as well. And I do speaking at events, corporate events, conferences, other events, panels, whatever is required and whatever can inspire audiences and help them walk away more empowered than they were before, or with additional wisdom.
Well, Regina, thank you so much. I'm actually so looking forward to working with you in the future. Perhaps we can have you come back and join me in the studio when you're back stateside. Would love to have you join me back in the studio in the future. But again, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I think your story is inspiring in terms of giving people permission to want to pursue things that perhaps they hadn't thought about. So again, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you for always being an authentic doer and an unapologetic dreamer. And I'll look forward to our viewers. If you're a misfit yourself and you're making a difference in this world, do reach out to me at AmitaMehta.com. Would love to hear your misfit story. Regina, safe travels. Enjoy your trip to Uganda. Can't wait for some pictures. We're going to promote that here as you make your way and your journey. And thank you very much, Regina.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Take care, Regina. And thank you very much.
Take care.
Take care.